Hi everybody, Jo here again. Thanks for joining me. It's lovely to have your company on this Tuesday. I hope you're feeling well and I hope your week started well. If not, if you need a big hug, do you know what? We're here together, we can support each other and we can have a big group hug. So there we go, just from me. Now, I had a lovely message from Jacqueline Moore a couple of weeks ago, and she was saying that she loves hedgehogs and she's got the Wallace family, but not quite sure how to use them. So do you know what? That gave me the idea to come up with the design. So this is what I've come up with, and I thought I'd talk you through. I was going to say the way my mind works, but believe you me, that's not always good. But I'll sort of explain to you the way I came up with this design. If I just bring it a little bit closer. So, Jacqueline, I hope you like this and I hope it gives you some inspiration. Now, to be honest, when you said about the Wallace family, I got my stamp out and it's quite good because it gives me a chance to actually look through my stamps. I don't know about you, but sometimes I forget what I've got. So I had and I think it's lovely to actually, I get my boxes of stamps out and actually go through them. And I was looking at what would go. I didn't want to just sort of make a normal scene and then just stamp the hedgehogs. I thought, so when I was looking through, I found this gorgeous, and I think it's called Druids Inn stamp. And I thought, oh yes, just the base of that would go beautifully. Now I've only used 2 of the hedgehogs. We have got 3. But I thought I just fancied 2 on this design. And so that's the way sort of my head worked. And I thought we'd use watercolour card for this. So this is the Lavinia watercolour card. And I've got to be honest, I love watercolour painting. Like I've said before, I'm no good at it. I've never done a course in it. I know nothing about it. I really should find time to learn. That's my bad. I really must. But I just love the idea of it. And I've used quite a few watercolour cards, and this one, I've got to be honest, is the best I've found. It's so smooth, so it's ideal for stamping. Some watercolour card is textured and you find you can't stamp very well, but this is lovely and smooth. So I'm starting with my watercolour card. Now, I've gone for a piece, the size is the usual size I use, and that's a 5.5-inch square. And that's so that it will go on a 6x6 card blank. But when I'd finished, I just thought it looked nice with a nice matte and layered border. So I've actually put this on a 7x7, and I just thought it took it really well. But as I say, this could go on a 6x6, just straight as it is. Now, I'll talk you through the way I'm going to do it. And as I say, this for me is the most beautiful. It is off-white, but it's not a problem because we're going to cover it with ink. And I'm going to start with my stamping. And I'm actually going to use a brown ink today. Because of using the tree stamp, I thought we'd go for pine cone. Now, it's quite a deep brown. So if you're sort of scared of using colours, it's not far away from black that we normally use, so it's not a big sort of far away for you. Now, also, what I find is often with big stamps, so if I bring the Druids Inn stamp in, look, it's a big sizable stamp. This can sometimes put crafters off. Now, I know we've got some lovely new members to our Lavinia family, which is lovely, and it's always great to welcome you. And by all means, never be scared of asking questions. We're such a good family on here. We will answer your questions. We'll help you through. But often this can be intimidating with it being a big stamp. But don't feel you have to do a big piece of art. I mean, by all means, if you want to do a big A4 or a journal page, you carry on and do that. But you can still do a small, look, 5.5-inch square piece. You don't have to use all the stamp. Now, I've just got my copy paper to stamp on. As you know, that's my my safety net. And I'm just going to ink up the stamp. Nice gentle tapping. Now, I've just got some on my acrylic block there. So I shall just wipe it off. So Mr. Inky Bink is so good at this. And as you know, I like to stamp sideways just because it's the way my head works. And I want this quite a bit up because I want to get my hedgehogs in. I'm going to put it pretty central, so we'll go for that. Now again, there's a lot of detail in this. Tracy's so good at drawing all that detail for us. So just give the ink time to soak into the card. I know we say that time and time again, but it is important. And like I say, although this is a watercolour card, it takes stamping really well. And like I say, look at that, absolutely beautiful. And this is great for a man's card as well. I know often we sort of make sort of pretty cards, and quite often we do get crafters asking for designs for men's cards, so this is perfect. Now obviously I'm using the hedgehogs, the Wallace family, but we have just the squirrel would look lovely on here, the badger. A lady asked the other day, had we got any designs using our badger stamps? We could put the badger here, obviously the little hares, one of the Mr. Foxes, you know, so you just alter the design with whatever stamps you've got. Now on the Wallace family, as I say, there are 3 stamps, but I'm just going to use 2 of them. And I'm going to stick with my brown. And we'll go for, now I just want to make sure her feet, she's straight. Now again, this is a silhouette, well, part silhouette, part detail. And as I say, stamps beautifully. And this little one is so cute. Probably a bit prickly, but he is so cute. And again, I've just overstamped a little bit there. So I just want to get rid of that. And we'll just put him a little bit higher up, a little bit there. There we go. And I'm just going to turn that over and give it a bit of a blot, just so I don't smudge it with my hand. And then to carry on this design, I love these big pebbles here. We've actually got a couple of gorgeous stone stamps. There's a large one and a small one. And I think this large one will look lovely. And again, remember, if you're not sure how it's going to look, use your acetate so I can decide, do I want that edge or do I want that edge? And again, I'm keeping with the brown. I must admit, this is one of those stamps that, you know, when I bought it, I wasn't sure how much I would use it. And I've got to be honest, I use it so much. We did a landscape workshop and it makes great dry stone walls. So I'm just going to put that coming in there. And then the other side. And I'm just going to turn this round. And I won't want to alter the height, don't I? I don't want it directly opposite there. And then just some along the bottom. So we'll just go for that edge and just catch a bit sort of there. Now when I've stamped that, what I've done is I've sort of looked, and as I've almost got a space here, I've put the larger, just so it looks appealing to the eye. So when you're stamping, just spend time thinking about things like that. And as always, I just clean my stamps with a wet cloth and then dry them with my Inky Binky. Just for me, because if I don't, when I take it off the block, I'll get ink on my fingers and then I'll get it on my card, and you know what that's like. Be needing that emergency butterfly. Now, what I'm going to do is, that's the main bit of the stamping, what we're going to do first before we add some colour. So I'm actually going to come in with my heat tool. So I do apologise for the noise. I know I've just quickly blotted the ink, but I really want to make sure it's dry. And you know me, I like belt and braces. I just like to double check these things. Because like I say, me being me, I would just smudge it, so. And I'm heating front and back. That way it keeps the card nice and flat. And what we're going to do is, because we're using watercolour card, we're actually going to watercolour this background. And I love doing this. And don't worry, we've stamped first, but it's fine, honestly. And this is great if you've never done any, now, as I say, I do apologise. I say watercolour painting. I know it's not proper watercolour painting. It's my take on it. And what we're going to do is we're going to use some of our Elements inks. I've been trying to use the Elements a lot recently because I know so many of you've bought them and you're not exactly sure what to do with them. They are fabulous on the gel press. But there's so many other things you can do with them. You can stamp with them, you can make your backgrounds with them, blend with them, and we're just going to do some watercolour painting with them today. So I'm going to use Della Blue and Graphite, and I'm just going to put a little bit of the ink on my mat. And I tend to just use the edge look. I don't want too much. I don't want to put the whole, these are very juicy, and if I put the whole ink pad, I think I may have too much ink. And I'm going to take a lovely big, now this is what, a half. I'm trying to look what number it is, so it's the half one, but it's a lovely big brush. And what I'm actually going to do first is just wet my card, sort of in the sort of sky area. Now, I will warn you, I'm not doing anything. We're just covering the card. Not doing anything mind-blowing here whatsoever. And then what I'm going to do is add some water to my blue, and I'm going to come in and just roughly go where the sky is. On both sides. Oh, look at that, we've splashed a bit there, but don't worry. We'll just clean that off. Now, because I wet the watercolour card first, this is a wet on wet technique. And I'm just going to come in and add some of the graphite. And I'm just sort of dabbing it on because it's almost going to be clouds in the sky. We are going to stamp over this. So the beauty of this is you don't have to be too precise about it. Don't worry at all. And that's what I think's nice, especially when you're starting off. If you've never done this before, you don't want anything that you're really going to be too almost precious over. Now remember, if you wanted to make clouds in this, just take a piece of kitchen roll, ruffle it up a bit and dab it. And that will take off the water. You can try and make shapes like clouds. There we go. And that will give you instant clouds. Now I'm just going to dry this little bit at the top, a little bit, just a bit too much water there. There we go. How fabulous are those? Now again, that was so easy. Let's just add a little bit darker down here and just keep playing. And honestly, I know I say this a lot, but the most important thing is you enjoy what you're doing. And really just enjoy this. There is nothing major to it whatsoever. The main thing is you have a go. You've got the inks, have a play. Your watercolour card will take the colour really well. And I'm just coming in now. This is a beautiful brush. And just adding little bits, just little bits more of the grey. Then I'm going to come in with a brown. I think we're going truffle. Let's put some of that on my mat. Now, I'm going to paint this bottom area. So let's just clean my brush, as I don't really want the graphite in the brown. I tell you what, Mr. Inky Binky hasn't stayed clean for long, has he? And I'm going to go over the stones and round the hedgehogs. And again, be a little bit careful, but you don't have to be over careful. We're going over the stones, but don't worry, I have a plan. And then let's mix some of the brown up, quite watery, because I literally just want to put the colour down. And don't worry here where it merges with the grey. That's not a problem whatsoever. Now I don't want a halo around my hedgehogs, so I can go right up to them. And you've stamped in a permanent. Your VersaFine Clair is your permanent ink, so don't worry at all. You can go right up to those hedgehogs. And we'll mix that in there. So we've got a nice mix. And I'm just going to turn it on the side just so I can add some colour to the tree. And I'm using the same colour, the same brush. And I'm just, as I say, I'm not being over careful. I'm really just enjoying this. And the point on this brush look stays. I mean, you know, it's the products that do the job here, not me. And as the card dries, I can always add more ink. Now, if I get any puddles at the bottom, look, I just dab those a little. I'm not keen on that. There's a bit of a line there, so I'll come in and just fuzzy that up a bit. Oh, I like that. I like that, the way those colours have gone. I'll check we've got. Yep, I think I'm happy with that. Now, what I will do is just come in with a bit of the grey and add a bit of Tracy's Drawn shadow on this. So I'll just put some shadow under my stones here. And you know what? It saves wasting the grey that's on my mat. So I'll just come in and add a little bit. Just where we've got the shadows, look. And under here. Now your watercolour card will bevel a little, but not very much at all. You'll be amazed. It flattens off so nicely and quickly. Now let's come in and add some henna. Now I purposely don't want to put the ink where the water is because I don't want to contaminate my ink pad. So I think I'll go up here. So I'm hoping you can still see it on shot. And henna is a slightly darker. Yeah, that's a much richer colour. And what I'm going to do is just want to dry around here. Just on my stones at the bottom, add a bit more of the darker colour. Just to instantly almost give them some shade. And I'm not overthinking this. Just sort of on the right and on the base, I'm coming in with some dark. And I've got to be honest, you will take a lot longer than me. But, you know, sometimes this, if you overthink it, it almost doesn't look right. Almost looks too contrived. It's quite nice almost having almost a loose way of working. And actually just, like I say, enjoy it. Just have fun. And that's why we craft, isn't it? We craft to enjoy. I know we sort of want a nice end product, but I think the more you enjoy it, don't know if you've ever noticed that, if you've really enjoyed making something, often you're more pleased with it and it looks nicer because you can tell you've relaxed and enjoyed it. I think often if we have to make something, got to be honest, I'm rubbish at making cards that people ask for, because when I'm actually told to do something, or if I have to make a design a second time, it's just funny, isn't it? I'm not very good at doing the same thing twice. Let's just put a little bit of shadow under there. And I'm just going to add some little details here. Nothing great, just something in the background, just to sort of, going to add a bit of water to that, just to fuzzy the edges, just so that it doesn't all look one colour. I'll just put that into there. Right, we'll move on to the tree now. Going to come in with a smaller brush, and I'm just going to add just some of these. Just come in, just so we've got a little bit of dark and light. And again, you could go to town here. You could really get all your different browns and spend ages painting these. But I'm just going to paint in a few. And what I will do is just under these vines, just paint a little bit of shadow. There we go. To have some here. and the door. Just go back to my bigger brush. I find if I use a brush that's too small, I almost get lines for a larger area. So I find using a bigger brush helps. Now if I've got a bit of grey, I can bring in a bit of grey at the base just to darken that up. Again, remember you can mix the colours. Let's go back to the lighter brush and we'll just do this stonework around the window here. And like I say, you just spend your time. Get all your different colours. Right, I'm just going to add a little bit more graphite. Have I got a dry bit there? Tell you why. This dark brown, I want to add a bit of graphite and just make it a bit deeper. Just to add a little bit on these stones. I think it'll really help. So I'm actually adding a lesser area. So I don't want to come in as far as I did with the brown. And you probably won't notice it much. But if I bring it closer, I don't know, can you see? It just adds another dimension. And just helps with that shade. And like I say, no skill required. And let's come in here. In between these branches here. And just add a little bit of that grey. Just to bring in some shade. And the stones around the door, I think we'll do them grey. Grey brown. Add a bit more there. Right. I'm happy with that. So I'm actually going to wipe this up, and it's only a little bit of ink. I know sometimes, you know, I get messages off crafters saying, why do you mop your ink up? You could put it on spare card. I could, but to be honest, I would end up with so many pieces of spare card, and it's only a little bit of ink at the end of the day. Now, I'm actually going to dry this with my heat tool. So again, excuse the noise. At home, I would let it dry naturally. Sorry, excuse me. So I would let this dry naturally, just because I find it gives a much better result. But for our purposes today, you see, if I was going to let it dry naturally, I'd go and make myself a brew and get myself a cheeky biscuit out of my biscuit tin. So if you were here and we were crafting together, that's what we'd be doing now. But as I say, I will just heat it with this heat tool. And as you heat it, look, the paper will curl. So just heat it from the back and that will help to flatten it off. Mind you, I get as much ink, look, on the back. Right, let's have a look. That's nearly dry. But as I say, if it dries naturally, you will get a much better, much nicer effect. So if I turn that over, can you see how lovely these clouds look? And that's just going to be in our background. So what we're going to do now is we'll just edge it just to frame it. So we'll come in with the henna. And I've got one of our blending tools. And I'm just going to help flatten the card a little. Now, again, one lady messaged me and said, instead of putting my ink on my mat, why didn't I put it in the lid? So I'm going to try and remember to do that. I think it was Joni. So thank you for the message, and I'm going to try and remember to do that. So we always ink up on the corners first. So in the lid. It's good that you think of how much ink. You don't want me wasting ink, so thank you. And again, round the bottom. And this is just so we get a nice frame. Now, obviously, it's going to show up more on the top. So maybe be a bit more gentle. We can come in a bit more. We'll go down the side. Just along the top here. And then on the corner, yes, that's looking nice. Just a bit deeper on that corner, I think, down the side. Remember, build your colours up. I don't want to get rid of all that sky. I like that sky. I think we just need this corner a bit darker, and this one a bit darker. Yeah, I'm happy with that. That just frames it, doesn't it? It makes such a difference. Now, I do need to get rid of that and dry that. And what we'll do now is we'll add some more stamping. Now, you could leave it like that. I've got to be honest, I think that sky's so lovely. But for me, we just need a little bit more stamping. And I'm going to come in with the Falling Ivy. And again, I'll continue with the brown. So this one, if you remember, is Pine Cone. And again, I don't want to overdo this. So I'll just bring a few in. And we'll probably do some second generation. So for those of you that are new, your first generation is the first lot of ink. But if you actually take your stamp and stamp again, it's paler. And that's the second generation. And that always adds to a design because it looks like you've got some ivy in the distance. But a little tip, if you do a first generation, so let's do one here, don't take your second generation further down because you'll have it lighter here and you have a line there where the edge of your card is. And if I put it on here, look, you would get it lighter and then darker. And I have done that a few times myself, so I have to be mindful. So if you notice, that's why when I do the second generation, it's a shorter piece. So again, I would do, say, first generation there and second generation, make sure it's shorter so I don't get that edge. Just one of those things, and it's one of those things that, to be honest, once you do it, and I'm sure we've all done it, and then you think, oh, shouldn't have done that. Just want one more, just coming off the edge here. I think it would look better. Just another one here. Yeah, that looks nicer. And then we're just going to come in along the bottom with our orchard grass. Now again, this is such a lovely, we have got the field grass and we've got the orchard grass. The orchard one is a little bit smaller, but it's so fine and wispy. You'll find that what it'll do is it will give you something in the foreground, but it won't take away from your actual design. And again, I'm doing a combination of first, second and third generation with that. I just think some of the flowers would be too heavy at the front, but that's so light and wispy. And I'm thinking, let's just put some here. There we go. Don't overcook it, walk away. Right, give that a blot. Look at the back of my card. There we go. And just see how nicely that's built up. Now, I am just going to belt and braces, sorry, put my heat tool just to double check that that's all dry. Now, the reason I wanted to do all my stamping and that background first is just to show you that at that point you could leave it. For me, that is a beautiful, move those out of the way, that's a beautiful piece. But I think we can make it look even better, and that's where your finishing little tricks come in. And what we're going to do is use our chalk pastel pencils first, and I'm just going to add some yellow here for this light. Now, as you know, I always rub these. Two things: one, it helps fix them, but two, it just gives them a nicer effect, almost blends them as well. Now, because I've got the yellow, I'm actually going to add some yellow onto this vine. And it's just to sort of brighten up the whole design, but sort of add some highlights. And I'm just going to add a little bit to the door. And I'm just actually going to choose the odd And again, I'm not overthinking this. I just want to add a little bit of, I think it just looks nicer with a bit of yellow. And then I've got a brown, so again, if I want to add, now the beauty of these chalk pastel pencils is they work so well over the top of ink, even ink and water. So if there's any bits you want a bit more brown on your trunk, you can add that. Now on the stones, we added the ink, didn't we? But let's add some yellow highlights just to brighten them up a bit. So where we've left that gap, we'll come in with some yellow highlights. And again, I'm not doing it on all of them. Don't want to overcook it. But what I want to do on top of that is almost smudge it with the white. And then I can use my finger to smudge it as well. And I just love the way that it brightens up the whole design. Now with my hedgehogs, I'm just going to add a bit of brown to the body, because again I almost think they look a bit see-through. And I'm just going to come in with a little stump. I've got some little blending stumps, but you can use, this is a biodegradable cotton bud. So if you don't want to use your finger, you can just use a cotton bud or a stump. And that will just give just a bit more integrity, a bit more body. And you know what, we'll just add at the top, let's just go for a little bit of yellow. Again, just to highlight. I just think that looks nice. It looks as though almost the sun's just catching them. I think for me it's either sunset or sunrise, and it's just catching the whole design. Now, we need a bit of shadow under our hedgehogs. So I'll come in with the brown and then with the black. And again, let's just smudge it. This is his shape there. And he's got his bottom round there, hasn't he, and his head there. And then under the stones here, we would have shadow. So again, I'm just going to come in with my charcoal. And again, if you notice, I'm not doing anything earth-shattering here. But just by adding that bit of darkness, and when we come in here, you'll see the difference. It's amazing sometimes when you just add some light colour and then some dark. You're just adding that light and shade. And I'm not overthinking this. I'm not overcomplicating it. Just take that off there. Now, as I say, you will take a bit longer and actually add. I'm conscious my head might be over the... There we go. Doesn't that look beautiful? And we can even come in and add a little bit more shadow if we want under here. But I think that just makes the whole thing, the chalk pastel pencils for me, absolutely beautiful. And then to complement them, look at that, I just wipe my finger. Otherwise, you know what's going to happen? We're going to have that mark, and I do try hard not to get finger marks. So I'm going to come in with my gel pens, and these are the Signo gel pens. And I'm just going to add a little bit of sparkle. And I must remember to lean on my kitchen towel. So I'm just going to add some to the vine. So where we've added the yellow, so it's a combination of my chalk pastel pencil and my gel pen. I'll add just a little bit here. And it's not over sparkle. Now, if you're making this card for a man, you may not want to add sparkle. But I think it looks beautiful as it is. But it's up to you. This is the point where, again, you can decide just how much you would like. Now, I'm just adding some little dots to the ivy here. Not overcooking it. Now again, you could add the eco glitters. Like I say, I just don't want this one too glittery. And then what I'm going to do is come in with my silver one, and I'm just going to add some little silver dots to these. And this is, I think, the dew. So I think this is, like I say, sunrise in the morning, and the grass here has just got that lovely dew on it when it glistens. Now I'm going to add a little bit of this. And I know this looks a bit funny to the hedgehog's body, but did you know you can move it with your brush? So it almost moves and becomes like mixed in with the paint. So I'm just going to do that just to give that little bit of sparkle on my hedgehogs, and we'll just go with a few of the spines, these little prickles. Do you know what? Let's have something on the door. There we go. Do you know what? I think that's finished. Let's just come in with a little bit in the middle here. Where's my blending? Seeing as I've wiped my, yeah, that looks better. Just leading that path up there. I often do this. Do you do this? You say something's finished and then you just see something else and think, yeah, that just needed a little bit more to just draw your eye. I just thought that needed just for them to draw their eye into that path up there. That's probably me reading too much into it. And what I'll do is I'll bring in the original. Now, as I said, this is a 7x7 card blank. So, and I just want to put this on here just to show if you wanted to put it straight onto a white card. I mean, you've got room here if you wanted to just pop that on to stamp your sentiment. And again, happy birthday, or we've got art from the heart. I mean, we've got so many lovely sentiments. So I'm hoping you enjoyed that, and I'm hoping you have a go. Do try the watercolour card and have a go at this watercolour painting. And look, you can just see the clouds popping through. So thank you for joining me and spending some time with me. And remember, Jacqueline, this one was just for you. Have a good week, everybody. I'll pop back soon. Love and hugs from me. Bye for now.